Hey everyone, it's Rita with Everything Homemade, and I'm going to cover a few really important topics today when it comes to growing your tomatoes. First, if you haven't seen the rest of this series, you can definitely go in the description box below, and I have everything there listed for you. I will also have them pull up on the screen right now. You'll see them. You can definitely click on them or watch the videos right now so you kind of can see how I started and where I am right now in the series. So a couple of key things that has happened here is we had a storm go through. So we had 2 days of just winds and thunder, lightning, really heavy rain. No hail, but definitely a steady rain where it rained for 2 days straight. So I'm going to show you some of the tomatoes that took a bit of a hit from that storm. We're going to look at it together, see if I should do anything or just leave it as is and let them continue to grow where they are and how they fell. So the other thing I'm going to show you is splitting of tomatoes, why that happens, and how you can prevent it. And if you have outside tomatoes, it's just something that may happen, especially when you got a 2-day rain. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Behind me, you can see the indeterminate tomatoes are huge. They just shot right up. What we're going to do is actually talk a little bit about trimming them because it is at the end of July. We're in zone 2, so we really only have 1 month of really good growing left. So I'm going to talk a little bit about those indeterminate tomatoes. On the side here, I'm going to talk to you about a little bit about the determined tomatoes. So I'm going to hit some really key points on this video. So first, let's start outside. Okay, so this is on the side of the greenhouse right here where I have my beautiful Signet marigolds. Now, they handled the storm just fine, and it's exactly how I wanted them. They make this beautiful border here. Makes me smile every single time I go into my greenhouse. So let's take a look at these tumblers. Now, they are ripening. The thing is, up north here, when we got really ugly weather for 2 days, then we usually have beautiful weather and things just ripen like crazy. And that's what has happened here. So if you take a look at this tomato right here, you can see it that it is splitting or cracking, whichever term you want to use. This isn't from slugs. This isn't anything that you can't eat this tomato. It's because we had a 2-day rain and these pots here got so saturated, even though they do have drainage, the plant got so much water that basically the fruit's like, I can't take on any more water, and it just starts to split because it needs to expand. And so when we do pick these, I'm still going to use them. I'm just going to pick this one off, and you can see here I'm still going to use this. I mean, if you cut it open and it tastes awful, don't, but it's not like it's a bad tomato. Okay, so I got a little bit of splitting there. Not everything has split. Definitely a few of them have. So again, it's not something that, you definitely don't want to say, hey, all my tomatoes now are garbage. Look at this. No, yes, they're not perfect, but they're still edible. And if you don't want to eat them raw, you can definitely sauce them. But they're definitely still edible. So let's just take a look. I got lots to pick here. I wanted to definitely film this before I pick. And just to show you what things are looking like. I mean, they're loaded with tomatoes. It's just even though we had this storm, it's still such a beautiful year. So these tumblers can handle high winds because they're so short. So that's why I really like growing the tumblers outside, because they can take an absolute beating. And no matter what tomato you're going to grow outside, if you got a storm like we had, you're going to get splitting. It's just going to happen to some of them, but the majority looks absolutely beautiful. Okay, so let's go into the greenhouse, and you can see tomatoes everywhere on the beefsteak. Now, they've definitely not reached their full size, but they are loaded. And with the determined tomatoes, I'm not going to take anything off the tops here because this is about the height that they are going to be. They're not going to get much taller. We are having less daylight, so they are going to now just automatically put all their energy anyway into the tomatoes. So I'm not worried about, you know, doing any kind of upper trimming. I'm just going to keep the leaves down, any of the bigger leaves down, and that's about it, and just let them naturally grow these beautiful tomatoes and put that energy in them. And that's what I like so much about determined tomatoes, is that they are really easy and a little less maintenance. So they are really loaded with tomatoes here. When it comes to the indeterminate tomatoes, and you can see they have went crazy. Plus I've been super busy, so it's been about 3 days since I've been in the greenhouse, and they have just grown, I swear, 2 feet since the last time I saw them. So they're way too tall, and I want them to focus their energy on the tomatoes that they are setting. So such as these ones here, I want them to focus their energy on them. I want them to focus the energy on some of them that they are setting. And this big guy right here, if you take a look, I mean, look how big he is. Here's my hand. I mean, he's huge. So I want them to focus on what they got going and not continue to grow taller and taller and taller to the sky. So what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to trim them down right to this string. Now I had put this string on about a week ago just to hold them back so they wouldn't fall over, but I'm going to take them down probably about a foot, and I'm going to keep them down to that level now. They don't need to grow any further. They just need to set what they need to set and grow the tomatoes what they need to grow. So no more taller tomatoes, you hear that? No more, you're getting trimmed down. So I'm going to just show you what I'm going to do. So these are the tops. This is the string here. I'm going to just come across here and just go trimming like crazy. So it'll end up look something like that. That way all that energy is going to go down below here and focus instead of growing taller. Just like that. Okay, you guys, the watermelon. So let's just take a quick look on what's going on with the watermelon. Look at that, beautiful. And look how much this one has grown. This is the one I showed you on the last video. My hand covers it. Look at that, I can't even put my hand right around it. It's growing so big. It's so beautiful. Look at that. So look at the size of it. Look at it. It's huge. Okay, and here's some more watermelons. There's another one. Beautiful. And the same thing with the watermelons. I'm actually not pollinating at all anymore. I'm actually, if they are continuing to grow, I actually trim them off like I just did with the indeterminate tomatoes, because I want them to focus on the fruit that they are growing right now, and to make sure that the watermelon grows nice and big, because we only got 1 month left of growing. The Romas are determined, so again I'm going to do the same thing as a beefsteak. Just let them continue to grow their tomatoes and continue. They're setting still, and that's okay, and they will grow quite fast, and just continue doing their thing and growing these big lovely tomatoes. So let's take a look at these tomatoes. So overall, I mean, they're still looking fairly good, but a lot has fallen over. So you can kind of see that here where they have fallen. Here, these tomatoes right here have fallen. And you can see the stem right here. Now I have a choice here. I can either lift this up, put a stake in it, but we're going to have quite a bit of heavy winds. That's just typical August here, and we're really windy a lot of times. or I can just leave it. Now things are pretty heavy. You can see the load, and this is pretty heavy. Like when I grab this branch, we got a ton of weight here, and it's resting on this pot. And I'm going to make a decision that I'm just going to leave it. I'm going to leave it drooped over because it's actually sturdy. This pot is holding up this branch okay. And I actually think it would be just better at this case not to go back and stake it. And same with these right here. If you kind of look, they're kind of leaning. This one's here, branch is leaning. Again, it's kind of resting. I could lift it up, but everything is just kind of, I think, better in this case left as is, because if we get another heavy wind, it's just going to fall again. And same over here, like this plant is leaning, everything's loaded, and these plants aren't really going to produce any more than what they are right now, because they're determined and our daylight is decreasing. So really everything is just all about ripening right now. There's going to be some young tomatoes growing, but there's not going to be a lot. And as you can see, a lot of the fruit is already ripening. I mean, even after all that rain, look at all the fruit that is ripened. And it's just, we're going to pick all this. And coming to picking, what I really like is picking them when they've got their cheeks. Like, they'll get way deeper red than this, but what I do is I like to pick them at this stage. That way the plant puts all the energy into ripening the green ones, and then there's always this continuous ripening. And because we're in such a short growing season, that really helps the plant to ripen everything on the vine, and I just finish it in the house. We're going to pick all these tomatoes. I just really wanted to show you how they look on the vine and what's kind of going on here. And you can also see, like, this one here has fallen over. Lots of them have fallen over. But the more that I'm assessing what's going on here, the more that, you know what, I'm just going to leave. I'm not going to touch because there's no branches actually broken. Everything's supporting. Every tomato plant is supporting each other in some way or fashion, or the pot. So even this one here is going into this pot, but this one here is falling over. It's kind of made them look like tumblers, which aren't, but nothing is breaking and everything seems to be fairly strong. So if we get a really high wind and another storm again, which they are predicting quite a bit more rain and wind, I might as well just leave it. So the petunias did not too bad. They're pretty strong, these petunias, so I'm pretty impressed. Although they did flatten a bit in the middle, as you can see here. The petunias kind of flattened there in the middle, but they did pretty good. The nasturtiums that you've seen, they got, I mean, their flowers definitely look worn, but they did pretty good. And they're starting to vine up the pig fence as well now. So we'll see how far that goes, but they can just keep on going. We did get some flattening here right here at the corner. They're kind of leaning this way and that way, but it doesn't matter. I'll just kind of lift that one up if I can, kind of fill in that gap. There we go. But they did really well. Now these ones are the tumblers. This one here is the yellow tumbler. So you can see right here we've got some beautiful yellow fruit. Oh, and you can just see, if you look a little closer, you can just see the fruit. We got to really go through all of these. I mean, we've got so many tomatoes. So some of you, if you don't know me, I make tomato powder. So I'll dehydrate even the cherry tomatoes, all the tomatoes, turn it into powder. And if you don't know how to do that, I'll link some videos that I made. And then I use it for tomato sauces. I use that powder in tomato paste. I use it in flavoring popcorn. I use it in pizza making. Instead of canning, I make powder, and I can store, 4 gallons of powder in one jar instead of making hundreds of cans. So I really prefer the powder, plus the versatility is just so great. So that's what I'm doing. We're going to eat some of this fresh, but 90% will go into powder. The little red robins, of course they did good. I mean, they're only a foot tall, if that, and they are just loaded. with tomatoes. You can just see that here. Of course, they didn't fall. I mean, they're really sturdy. They make awesome outdoor plants because of that. And they are just loaded. So they're doing really, really well. Overall, don't get too scared if your tomatoes are splitting when it comes to too much water. Like I said, with that 2-day rain, they're still edible, still usable. And make sure you're trimming your indeterminate tomatoes down now, especially if you're in a zone which you're only going to have one more month of summer. Trim those indeterminate tomatoes. Get them to just focus on what is set and grow those tomatoes. Outside, I'm not doing much with these tumblers at all. I'm not taking any leaves. I'm just picking fruit, letting the plant ripen its fruit, and then picking some more and turning it into tomato powder. So right now, that's what I'm focused on. And then in the greenhouse, just make sure you're constantly watering those pots so you have an even amount of water. And because of that, you can control and prevent that the splitting of the tomatoes, because you have a constant watering, and not, like outside, you can just get them drenched because of the rain. And that I've helped you out quite a bit about growing tomatoes and how to take care of them. And I just hope that you have a bumper crop just like I am having. So if you got any questions, just definitely leave it in the comments. Otherwise, this will conclude this series. And happy gardening, and may you have a blessed year. And don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and share it. So once again, I will see you on the next video.